I would like to talk about Queensland playing to our strengths and a little bit about what Peter said about the economy, about the challenges that coals have. And quite often we see our geography, which is a little unique, providing us some economic challenges when we talk about the distances that we have in this state. But I think our geography and our regions can actually be seen as a bit of an economic opportunity. So our diversity in those regions gives us many advantages through many industries and sectors, and we can see that for the state with tourism, construction, mining, agriculture, to name a few. But many of those sectors are regional specific and require bespoke solutions that build on a region's unique strength and character. And because of our unique geography and decentralised economy, we need stronger and more vibrant regions than other states, and perhaps more unique approaches to how we look at those regions. So while we have regional specific industries, we also have industry sectors that operate throughout the state and the particular regions. And some of those sectors provide us some opportunities and might fly a little under the radar, and that's one of the topics, or that is the topic that I want to talk about today. But perhaps to start with, let me tell you a little bit about our bank, Heritage Bank. We are a proud Queensland institution. We are 142 years old, one of the oldest banks in the country. We have 61 branches that are located throughout mainly southeast Queensland. We are a regionally based bank, but we operate nationally. We're $9 billion in assets, employ 858 staff, and 87% of those staff are based regionally. Headquartered in Toowoomba, and we are Australia's largest customer-owned bank. So we are a largest mutual bank in the country, and we are the fourth largest cooperative and mutual organisation in the country when measured by assets. So when we look at Toowoomba, so what does it mean for Heritage Bank based in Toowoomba? So we are a major employer in the region, but like many organisations we see that operate regionally, we see ourselves as being integral to the local economy and to the community that we operate in. We offer great senior professional roles, jobs, opportunities for families, for spouses that come up. We are an integral part of the community that we operate in. And with that, we believe that we carry a social licence, and a social licence carries responsibility for operating and living in the communities that we offer banking services to. So we are proud to be part of a vibrant economy and to experience the enviable lifestyle that Toowoomba offers. And that's, I think, a common theme of all companies that operate in regions. They see themselves as part of the community, they operate in part of the community, and they invest in the community. And Toowoomba is a pretty good place to invest, because at the moment we see that Toowoomba is booming. So to give you an idea of just some of the investments that we have in our region. So 4 little snapshots of pictures. On the top left is a picture of a new data centre. That's a $45 million data centre proposed to be built by FKG. It's world-class, tri-redundant design that's going to deliver efficient and scalable data storage across the country. Toowoomba, if you don't know, is unique for data centres. It's one of the least climatic changes in the country, which makes it ideal for large data storage. So this is a big new centre being proposed by FKG. The project is forecast to attract major employment in the region through scientific, technical, agri-resources and defence using the sources of the data centre. Up to the right is the Wellcamp Airport. So this is Australia's first new airport since Tullamarine, privately owned built in just over 19 months and now offering direct services to Sydney, to Melbourne, Townsville, Cairns. That airport has made a tremendous difference to our region, and it's already taking weekly 747 cargo trips out to Hong Kong. Down the bottom left is the Toowoomba Second Range Crossing. So 1.6 billion joint federal and state funded project, 41 kilometres of toll road that is producing around 1,800 direct and indirect jobs for the region over the life of the project. And this is a great example of jobs that are created locally, because Nexus, who are the main contractor on this project, 76% of these jobs are located locally within Toowoomba and the Lockyer Valley region. So fantastic example of just some of the investment. And of course, on the right is the Inland Rail, and that's coming through our region as well. Another great boom, not just for our region, but for Queensland. Great examples of projects that create long-term benefits. And I think this shows that we can do a lot in regional cities. So regional cities, they are worth the investment. So the latest research in a paper of Lighting Up Our Great Small Cities, Challenging Misconceptions. It's a research paper from the Regional Australian Institute. And that study shows maybe what people don't think, that regions match it with the big cities. There is potential just over $378 billion output by regions by 2013. So we think that regional cities are just as well positioned to create investment returns, commensurate with their big five cousins. But there are some challenges that regional cities do face. So whilst we do have a great place to live and to work, attracting people to our regions can be a little tricky. And quite often the same research shows that people perceive that there is a lack of career advancement opportunities, there's a lack of work opportunities for spouses, social and support networks for families are seen to be challenging, and perhaps medical support and education comes into that as well. And that's not the case. The region's, Toowoomba is a great example of this, has world-class medical education facilities, transport facilities. And attracting people to the region isn't a problem for graduates or for starters. We don't have that problem. In fact, we have this professional nursery syndrome where we can get graduates and new starters, you just can't necessarily get the senior people coming, and that might be for a variety of reasons. But most of the economic benefit seems to be directed, when you look at projects and programs from government, seem to be directed around first starters, where it's really the seniors that I think we need to be looking at. And this is a particular issue for Queensland, as we can see on the next slide. No surprise to this audience, but we are the most decentralised state. 11 of Australia's largest cities are in Queensland, whereas you look at New South Wales and Victoria, you've only got 6. And 52% of Queenslanders live outside of Brisbane, where it's only 35% in the other states, in particularly New South Wales and Victoria. So the tyranny of distance that we live with in Queensland means that our regions have to develop their own ecosystems to flourish, and that distance is huge. I mean, Queenslanders probably know, but Southerners, it puts it into perspective for them when you say that Cairns to Brisbane is actually further than Brisbane to Melbourne. It sort of just shows the distances that we have to look at. So economic development for Queensland, I think, in the regions is more important than in other states. And we're seeing in other states that there is a lot that they're doing. Victoria is an example here, where they are actively promoting their regional areas, Ballarat, Bendigo. They're giving incentives for people to move to those areas. but really they're not very far away from Melbourne. They're an hour commutable distance. We've got quite a few different challenges. But there are some things that can be done, as we've sort of pointed out some ideas on the next slide. We look at homeowner grants, so we're quite happy to give first homeowner grants, and there have been instances where we've made those first homeowner grants a little easier for the regions. Perhaps stamp duty concessions have been done from time to time in regions as well. But we haven't looked at relocation allowances, making it easier for people to make that decision to move away from cities and into the regions. So whilst we're happy to give a $20,000 first homeowner grant, we haven't looked at giving a $20,000 relocation grant to get the talent into the regions where it's needed. Because industry sectors build on strengths, and there are, as we said at the start of the presentation, there are particular aspects of regions that are strengths, but there are, in our economy, some hidden sectors as well. And one of those hidden sectors is the financial services sector. So if I can just have the slides flipping over. The financial services sector in Australia, very, very strong sector, and really it is world-class, and we are recognised for that, but it is growing faster than many traditional sectors. Whilst it is growing that quickly, we should ask ourselves, is Queensland getting its fair share of this? So it's growing quickly in all other states. Does Queensland actually get its fair share? So the big five banks we know are clustered around Sydney and Melbourne, and in fact in a global survey of the top 88 financial service sectors in the country, in the world, Sydney is ranked number 8, Melbourne is ranked number 21, Brisbane doesn't get a rating, it doesn't get a mention at all. So why the difference? What does New South Wales and Victoria have that we don't have? Or the other way of thinking about it, what do we have that they don't? Queensland actually has a vibrant financial service sector. In fact, it's the third largest financial sector behind the homes of the major banks in New South Wales and Victoria. So we have a base, and in fact, we do have a significant market share. We have 4 out of the top 10 domestic challenger banks in the market based in Queensland. Suncorp, Bank of Queensland, CUA and Heritage Bank, all proud Queensland-based organisations, and really at the moment being a challenger bank, not being one of the 4, is not a bad spot to be from a banker's point of view, but the state has an advantage here, and in fact that advantage not just in number, but when we look at the size of the assets, if we go to the next slide, we actually have 40% of the challenger-based assets in the state as well. So we do have a vibrant and big significant market share. If you give me 40% of anything, I think that's something that you can work with. And it's growing commensurately with the sector, meaning that financial services within Queensland is actually set to overtake some of our more traditional industries. We're the 6th largest financial services. It's the 6th largest industry within Queensland at the moment, but at the rate of growth that's predicted, it will overtake transport and manufacturing in a few years' time. And the other thing about our industry is that we do have some other unique attributes. So Queensland is actually punching above its weight when you look at mutual ADIs or customer-owned mutual ADIs. So Heritage is one of those, and so is CUA. ADIs are approved deposit institutions, banking licences from the RBA. And with that, that gives us a unique position when you look at the region or where they're based. So all of these logos from all of those banks are Queensland-based banks, headquartered up and down our state. So we do have a position that we can actually work with here. And these banks are based in regions offering that support that we spoke about for regional economies. When you look at the employment, On the wider financial services sector, 68,000 people employed in the sector, and 40% of those are regionally based. So there's 27,600 people that get their living, live in regions, support the regions, and that's a huge amount when compared to other states. Only Tasmania, which we're not talking about the same scale, outranks it at 45%. So if we've got these opportunities, what can we do to support them? So we see that Queensland does have the largest share of challenger financial assets, and there is an opportunity to create a challenger type of mentality in our banking sector. We've got a significant share of that in the regional areas, and the potential flow-on effects, I think, are huge. But we can support, so we've got to look at things in our sector that support and protect, and knowing what the sector does compared to, say, some other states recently that have made decisions that would indicate that they might not understand what sectors they have in their states. So it's about supporting and it's about protecting, and hopefully it's about positioning ourselves so that we can, and I don't see any reason why we can't, get on that top 88. So just to wrap up, on the last slide, I believe that we do have a unique opportunity in Queensland. We can position ourselves as the challenger state for financial services. This is a huge opportunity for us, and when we look at regional, it's a huge opportunity to encourage that regional growth, becoming the challenger bank, and particularly by harnessing the strength that we have in mutuals and co-ops. Thank you.